What's up, everyone? Welcome to Doop on the Volley, Philly Sports Network's Union-specific soccer podcast. We got another full show here to go through all things Union. Over the last week, we've seen the first team get 2 draws, 0-0 draws, 1 good, 1 bad. Gotta love that. So fun stuff there. Another match coming up this weekend against Montreal at home, so we'll see if the Union can break some curses and get some wins here at home yet again. We got Jimmy King here with us tonight. Jimmy, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. Like you said, it hasn't been as fun as it normally is, but always good to jump out on the show. First time in a couple weeks for me. Been pretty busy recently, so good to jump on the show. Thanks to the few people that jumped on my appearance with the Charlotte show to preview that series, or that game, I should say. And just, good to be back and talk Union soccer and see if we can lift the curse of Union Yards tomorrow night.
Oh, it's such a funny thing. We're going to get into it. We're really going to get into it. Eric, how are you feeling on this Friday evening, this lovely Friday evening? That
I'm feeling good. I mean, it's gorgeous outside. That's why I just look that way. I've got a view outside that way. I'm not just looking randomly. But yeah, it's a beautiful day. It looks like it may actually be a beautiful day tomorrow, which is weird to say. I'm going to knock on wood here a little bit just in case. You never know. The only thing that might be falling from the sky is ash, depending on what happens with Union Yards.
I mean, maybe.
I'm looking at this comment.
We got people in the comments already saying that they got matches ready for Union Yards curse. Like, I don't know. And it's like I said, we're gonna get into all things Union Yards and the curse that seems to be befallen this club. But before we get into talking about the recent draws for the first team, we wanted to take a second and kind of give a spotlight over to Philadelphia Union 2 and just how good the Baby Snakes are doing this season. They're in first place in MLS Next Pro, not just the Eastern Conference. They are the best team in the league right now on 3 wins in a row recently. And just last week, they beat Red Bull 2 for the second time this season, this time by a score of 5-1. They just dismantled them up in New York, New Jersey. I don't even know where they played their second team games. I'm not going to be honest, or I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't know. But yeah, it's been really good for Union 2 so far. We've seen some really impressive young players kind of coming up the pipeline, getting some good minutes there. Some of the Union substitutes getting minutes as well for the first team, playing well there too. So before we get into just the first team and kind of their draws, Jimmy, how are you feeling about this Union 2 squad and how they're the best team in MLS Next Pro right now?
Yeah, I think Marlon LeBlanc is doing a really, really good job with this squad right now. I love to see guys like Marcus Anderson getting some minutes down there. I think he is a really great coach to develop young players, and Marcus, being, I believe, only still 20 years old, is still someone that has a lot of growing to do. And not only did he score his first goal for Union, or Union 2, I should say, this past weekend, but he made it a brace as well. So he had a really good game. David Vasquez had one of those games where you kind of look at it and say, okay, maybe this guy is ready to take the next step in the next couple months here and get some time on the Union first team's bench. But a great month overall squad. They went 3-0 over the month of May, outscored teams by a score of 10-2 over those 3 games, and was MLS Next Pro's Team of the Month. So I'm not sure you can really do much better than what they are right now. But I think the most important thing, and something I'm really confident in Marlon is keeping the team on the right track and not letting them get ahead of themselves. It's a long season. It's Jim Curtin says this a lot. It's not about how you start. It's about how you end a season. So they're doing great right now, but they still have work to be done. And I'm excited to see what Marlon and the boys do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it's so crazy you bring up Marlon a whole lot. One of my favorite quotes from him about this Union 2 team is that he always says that his job is to not win games, it's to develop the players to get them ready for the first team. And right now it just so happens that they're winning the games because of how he's helping to develop those players. I just think that's a really cool thing. Eric, how are you feeling about this Union 2 side?
They're so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like tuning in. I mean, I know it's not necessarily about the results, but the way that Marlon's got them playing, it's entertaining. It reminds me a lot actually of the way the first team had been playing up until recently,
Yeah.
in terms of like putting together some really nice looking attacking moves, except the second team was actually finishing them as well more consistently. And I think that bodes well for the future. Mentioning Vasquez and Anderson, um, the fact that these guys are able to put up those kind of performances at that level bodes well for what they can bring to the first team, whether that's this season, next season, going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we always, of course, we have to shout out the Bridge Brigade, the supporters group. I did make it to one Union 2 game earlier this year, not with Bridge Brigade, but they did look like they were having a lot of fun down there. And Red Bull 2 plays at Montclair State, so there we go. I got some clarification there, so now I know for next time where they are there. So that's good. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Union 2 players who are kind of breaking through that team, and as Marlon LeBlanc has said, like his job is to develop first team players, so like we could hopefully see some of them kind of rise through the ranks, like you guys said, David Vasquez, Marcus Anderson playing very well. Maybe we'll see players like left back and captain of the team Frankie Westfield come up too. He's been balling out down there. We all know Kevin Sullivan is down there, and he's been getting minutes coming off the bench right now for them, so we'll see how that goes with the second team. But yeah, they're playing really well. I think they play this week, right? They play this weekend
at home. So if you're looking for something to do on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, they will be at Subaru Park. If you're a season ticket member, I believe you have a few Union 2 games built into your plan. I think when I went the first game I went to this season, I think I just went to go buy a ticket, and if you're signed into your account manager, I think it just makes it $0.
Nice. Yeah.
You haven't taken advantage of that yet, please go down. It's a great time. The crowd is growing every single game. It used to just be a lot of parents and a lot of that was pretty much it, honestly.
Yeah.
The Bridge Brigade has done a really great job. Obviously, Kevin has brought some eyes as well. But I think things are growing really organically right now, and it almost feels like a grassroots soccer, like a USL side growing organically right now, even though it's just a Union, the Union 2 side, MLS Next Pro. So I think it's something really cool that's going on right now, and I think you can kind of see. Even though it is a little bit similar, you can see their own identity building, even though it is supposed to build towards the first team. So it's a lot of fun right now. If you're around on Sunday, get down to Subaru Park for that.
Yeah, for sure. Some names to watch here: Westfield, Vasquez, Nagobo, and Neil Pierre playing really, really well for Union 2. Yes, so please go down to the Sub this weekend, check them out. Especially if you're a season ticket holder, you do get some of those games for free, like Jimmy was saying. So yeah, go check out Union 2. They're playing some really great soccer right now. But we do have to. Oh, what did you say, Jimmy?
And if I may, Tim, a little plug for ourselves. We are actually all working on a collaboration piece where we're all kind of taking a look in depth at one player from the Union 2 squad and how they might impact the first team in the future, whether that be, again, the next coming weeks or months or years. So be on the lookout for that article, probably coming out sometime next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one for sure. But with that, we are going to transition now to talk back about the first team and how they aren't playing some great soccer right now. In the past week, we saw 2 0-0 draws. We're going to go all the way back to last Saturday and talk about the match down in Charlotte first. Union went down there and kind of, I don't know. It was more of a convincing draw, I would say, than like a pessimistic one. Charlotte hadn't given up a goal at home for almost a full month, so Union, who had been kind of leaking goals, came down there, played very good defensively. Leon Flock kind of stood out from that match, I think, most of all. But they just couldn't get a ball in the net. Late on in that match, if I'm not mistaken, I feel kind of fuzzy because it feels like it was a really long time ago, but I believe that was the match where Chris Donovan came on late and had a very good chance to get a winner, and unfortunately couldn't beat the keeper late on in that game. But guys, if you can remember back all the way to last weekend, how did you feel about that game against Charlotte? What kind of stood out to you as your main takeaway? And I'll throw it over to Eric first for this one.
I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but the shutout. After so long and it's kind of the shutout both directions.
Mm-hmm.
After so long talking about how this team was scoring but not able to keep other teams out, it's reversed in recent weeks, which is obviously good to see from our defense, and less fun to see from our offense. But I'll stick with the positive. With the defense, like you said, Leon Flock stood out. He's been way better than I think anyone could have expected, coming back from multiple injuries, keeping him out for quite a long time. And he's really just stepped up and showed out. And it's been fun to watch. It's been really nice to see because he's got to have been frustrated dealing with all that he's been dealing with. So hopefully it's got him feeling a lot better now.
Yeah, and it was really interesting, Eric. I remember because we were doing a preview pod for that match, and we saw the Union's lineup, and we thought that the midfield was super attacking with McGlynn and Sullivan there, with Carranza and Ua and Gazdag kind of up top. And we thought we might see some more chances on net, which I feel like we did see, but they really couldn't get one in there. Paul showing his love for Leon Flock here. He's a stud and that we missed him so much in the midfield. And that is very, very true. We were talking pre-show and we kind of think it's hard for him to get replaced right now. It's crazy to think about. But Jimmy, what were your thoughts about the Charlotte match?
Yeah, I mean, I think similar to you guys going into this game, I was you probably hope for a draw going down to Charlotte, especially with them not conceding in the previous, I think, 4 or 5 games prior to that. Hey, what's up, Edgar? Thanks for stopping in, man. But I think at the same time, playing such a attacking lineup and playing that lineup that had scored a lot of goals so far this season, you were probably hoping to score at least 1 goal. But I think that is kind of how soccer is, right? Is like go down to Charlotte, get a 0-0 draw, and we're saying, okay, like not a bad result. A couple days later, we come home, get a 0-0 draw, and people are frustrated and not happy. And I agree. It's just weird how the same result can have such different connotations and kind of weight to the how the season's going, just over a matter of a couple of days. But yeah, I think it was a decent result overall. I would have loved to see Chris Donovan put that goal in the back of the net late in the end of the game. It was an opportunity that was kind of handed to them from a mistake by Andrew Privet. So I think that if you listen to Jim Curtin after the Toronto game, Union just aren't getting the luck that they seem to get. And I know that like we kind of talk about it as like they create their own luck and it's not them being lucky or getting easy calls or whatever. But they're just not getting that right now. Like, all the good luck or fluke goals are going to the other team and none of them are falling for the Union right now. And I think that is kind of the biggest difference in 2 weeks ago when we're conceding a lot of goals and then also scoring a lot of goals. And now we're not conceding any goals and we're also I think that's like the biggest thing. Jim talked about it even is on another night, we're scoring goals late in the game, whether it's that chance for Chris Donovan against Charlotte, or we'll talk about it, but the opportunity late in the game against Toronto when Jose Martinez whipped that ball across the box. Union just aren't getting the bounces right now.
Yeah, and I mean, whether you love him or hate him, you got to feel for Chris Donovan in that moment, because he has been scoring in bunches for U2 for the last few seasons. I know our buddy Steve always kind of talks about it in our group chat, and he does a lot of Union 2 coverage for us. So if you want, go give him a follow. He does some great work. But he says that he feels for the kid just because, he scores all these goals for Union 2. He always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And for whatever reason, he's like lacking that little bit of killer instinct or confidence for the first team. And we'll see if that kind of comes with time here. We're thinking he might get some more and more playing time, especially as things kind of progress coming into the summer months. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like you said, Jimmy, it was a 0-0 draw down in Charlotte, and fans were kind of saying, oh, that's a good result. It was after a losing streak, so it kind of feels like a good result. And also a point on the road is always good, and a clean sheet to boot, like you said, Eric. Then Union came home following Wednesday night against Toronto and had the same result. And it was a 0-0 draw against Toronto. We'll kind of progress into that now. Before the game, there was a little bit of confusion and maybe some panic for fans as Julian Carranza was not in the starting 11, and everyone kind of freaked out at the same time on Twitter when the lineup came out, thinking like, oh no, is this him leaving in the summer to go to Feyenoord? Is it happening already? We did get confirmation it was because he picked up a slight knock in Charlotte, and Jim Curtin did confirm that after the game. So no, that's not happening yet. What were you saying, Jimmy?
To add on to that, I don't know if this was like a slip up in the way he said things, but in his post game press conference, Jim did address it, and he was very transparent on like, if there was something to tell you guys regarding him leaving, I'd tell. And then he specifically said, Julian actually has an injury on his ankle right now. He's our player for the rest of the season, is what he said. And I don't know if that was a slip of tongue, if he's just tired after a frustrating draw and spoke. But I also wonder if maybe they really haven't gotten any offers that move the needle and get them what they need to let him walk in the summer, even if that means letting him walk for free in the summer. I just thought that was interesting and something to maybe not overanalyze. I don't want to, but just to keep tabs on and kind of look at over the next couple months.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I mean, we did talk about it a little bit at length in the last podcast before the Charlotte match, because that's when all the news was breaking that Feyenoord was kind of the team coming in for him. And yeah, like we were all saying, like it has to be for the right amount of money in the summer. And if it's not, then the club needs to keep him because they really, really need him for the season. And I don't know, we were talking ambitions and everything too, Jimmy. I know you heard a little bit about it, but it was like, if the ambition is to try and win something this season, then you do need a Julian Carranza on your team. But if the ambition is to rebuild, then it is probably the best option to sell him in the summer. But the number has to be right. You can't be selling him for pennies on the dollar,
But at the same time, it's like, how do you convince someone to come in and pay for someone when they can get him for free down the road?
Right.
Union are in a really bad spot with that. Oh man, it's interesting. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how that one plays out. Sorry to get a little bit off topic there.
Oh no, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, it was the talk of everyone. Everyone was talking about it for at least the 20 minutes until it was confirmed that it was just a slight knock injury, nothing too crazy. But that's where everyone's head went right away. It was like, oh, is this it? Like, is it now? It's too early still for that, but we did see the Union make that change, and they pushed Quinn Sullivan up top, brought in Ali Bedoya to round out the midfield. And then other than that, it was an unchanged lineup from Charlotte. We were talking before the pod just about how the defense and Leon Flock at the center midfield position are kind of locks right now. And I think that's probably a place we should start, even though this was a 0-0 draw that kind of felt like a loss since it was at home. That I think we should start talking about the solidity that has been brought with Leon Flock in the defense. So I'll throw it over to Jimmy first for this one. How are you feeling about the defense, the consistency that Jim Curtin is now going to with his back four and Leon Flock?
Yeah, I mean that's the Jim Curtin's been saying for probably months now that Even when Union were winning games, they needed to solidify their defense and kind of clean it up, and that they aren't really a team that likes to, have these back and forth 3-4, 2-3 games. And so seeing 3 clean sheets in a row is really, really promising. And I think that is the foundation of this Union team. That is where they build all of their success from. But Jim Curtin even talked about it after the game. The season's just been too extreme. And at the time when he said that, I didn't really understand, or I did understand, but I thought it was maybe a little bit of an exaggeration. But if you look at it, it has kind of been extreme. Like it's, they're either scoring lots of goals and playing in these, 3-4 games, 2-3 games, or not scoring anything. And it's just not like them right now. Getting back to the clean sheets is a really, really good step. And like I said, that is the foundation of their success. But it just seems like they can't I don't think they've played a full 90 minutes where you can look at the team and say every single component of this team played well tonight. Even that 3-0 win against New England, Jim was the first one to shut it down on Wednesday night. He said, yeah, it was 3-0, but they were with 10 men for most of the game. And let's be honest, they're probably the worst team in the league right now. Yeah. You should win 3-0 against them if they have 12 men on the field right now. So yeah, I don't know. I think the defense is looking good. We talked a little bit pre-show about maybe Leon Flock and his defensive abilities kind of makes the offense suffer a little bit. And I think that is kind of the challenge that they're trying to find right now. And they talked about needing to find it before this weekend, and it's only going to get harder after this weekend with all those guys leaving on international duty. So hope they can figure it out for tomorrow and get 3 points in the bank before those people head off.
Yeah. So Eric, I'll throw it over to you because I know you were talking about this before we started our show too. Just like Jimmy was pointing out, the extremes of, at first they're scoring all these goals and now they're scoring none, but they're also conceding none. So how do you think they're going to try and kind of balance this out? Because we've seen both ends of the spectrum and we haven't seen, like Jimmy said, a consistency in terms of them scoring goals and not letting any up.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they can try with all these absences coming up. And even tomorrow, before people leave for international duty, just missing Carranza potentially, really hurts our chances. Because there's only so much you can do. Even like we said against Charlotte, they played what looked like a more attacking midfield, and it was still difficult. Granted, it was away, and Charlotte has been on a defensive shutdown streak. So a team like Montreal, theoretically, you should have an easier time scoring against. I wonder how much. Obviously they're going to want to make adjustments to try and get some goals, but I wonder if Jim Curtin will be reluctant at all to go too far towards that, just because, like Jimmy was saying, the foundation of this team has been this defensive solidity. I don't think he's going to want to risk sacrificing that too much and going back to the other extreme. Particularly again, if Carranza is out. I think really the best we can hope for is going with a more attacking midfield mindset. But again, with Carranza out, then you're pushing Sullivan up probably to start at striker, and you're throwing Bedoya in, which that's not necessarily going to make your midfield more defensive. Or I should say it's not necessarily sacrificing too much going forward, because Bedoya can still help generate chances. And he got arguably the best chance of the game for the team on Wednesday. But I think just giving them the chance to play with a little more freedom going forward is the most we can hope for, at least for now, until maybe after the international break, we're getting everyone back and there's a little more room to tinker.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that you bring that up and just the way that they attack right now. So I was at the game on Wednesday. I was in the stands, and there was this man who was definitely from England. He told me this is his first time watching an MLS game, and he picked an interesting one to come to for his first game. But I just kept asking him like how he was feeling. He just kept saying he was frustrated from both teams because both teams just wanted to pass the ball sideways and no one wanted to put their foot on the ball and move it forward and advance it and really try something, even play like a long ball over the top. There weren't many of those passes. It was a lot of just, oh, we're going to go around. We're going to pass it side to side, go down the wing, try and cross it up. No one's in the box. Okay. Now the other team's going to do the exact same thing. And it was just a lot of that for the entire game. Like you said, Eric, there was just that one really big chance that was Bedoya's. He did get in the box at one point and got a header on net, but it was right at Sean Johnson, who read it all the way. They didn't really test him at all. So it's a really frustrating time for the attack. And I think if, for the few days that the Union have had to prepare going towards Montreal, they're probably going to look at ways to be more direct and kind of, sit depending on their personnel. Like if they have Carranza, they can play with the ball a little bit more, I think. But if it is Sullivan and Ua up top, you got to start playing long balls into the channels for them to run onto. And then you have to hope that Gazdag or McGlynn or Bedoya, whoever it is in the middle, can kind of make a late run into the box and create a second option. But yeah, I don't know. I think that might be the one way that they can really rectify this for Montreal, is to just as kind of crappy as it is, just play Route 1 soccer, where when you get the ball at a center back's feet, they just hoof it up, and you hope you can win the first header or win the second header and get a chance off that. That might be what they have to do against a Montreal side that's kind of struggling. But before we move on to looking at Montreal and other things, do you guys have any final thoughts for these two draws and kind of what they mean for this Union team right now that's kind of desperate for goals, desperate for wins, and they're solidifying things on defense but have not found a way to score and win? And I'll throw this over to Jimmy first.
Yeah, I got one major point. Thank God we have Oliver Semla.
Yeah.
I just cannot imagine where this team would be right now if we were still running Joe Bendick out there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute great guy. Like, great guy to have in the locker room. It would be great to have around for a guy like Andrew Rick to help learn from and grow as a human and a goalkeeper. He's just, man, the gap between him and Andre Blake was just so big, though.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked about it, and we see it almost every single game. Semla has at least one save that you look at and say that's probably a goal if it's not saved, at least one a game. And he actually ranks in the top 90% percentile in a stat I don't fully understand, but I think the bare bones of it is that he's really, really good at saving shots that have a really high expected goal from shots on target. So the main taking point of that is he's stopping a lot of goals from going in the net. And he's not just catching the ball, floaters or whatever, saving really high quality chances. So that's the one thing I have to say. He wasn't too busy on Wednesday night, but I think that one chance early in the first half, I think it was Derek Etienne Jr. in the box, maybe. That was a good reaction save and kept the game level.
Yeah, it's so funny you bring up that stat, because I have noticed, like, he's very good at that shot stopping ability, but he seems pretty indecisive with those floaters that are almost like the easier ones to come out and grab. Yeah, it's like it's definitely a spectrum there for him. But yes, I mean, and we haven't even really talked about that, how Andre Blake is still out. He had to get surgery on that injury. I believe it was his knee. Was that his knee injury? Or yeah, he's had so many injuries, I can't remember which one he's getting the surgery for, to be honest. I just hope he gets better soon. But he will be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, according to reports. I believe Jonathan Tannenwald was the first one to report it there. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if he has to miss out on Copa America, which I hope not. I know Jamaica is having some friendlies coming up in the next week, and Blake was not on the roster obviously for that. But hopefully, as we get towards Copa America and the preliminary rosters come out, he'll be hopefully back with the team there. Paul's got a good question for us here. So do we think the good Semla performances could mean USL to Union pipeline could continue, especially in what could be a big summer? That's a really good question. Eric, I'll throw that over to you first here. Do you think that we could see maybe some more players from USL coming up to Union if there's a good opportunity?
Yeah, potentially. The one thing that makes me hesitate with that is and we talked about this before, but the quotes of not wanting to block young players coming through.
Yeah.
Particularly because other positions on the field, having a lights out backup isn't quite as important.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's easier to bring up the young guys in the other positions on the field and give them a chance than it is for backup keeper, particularly because with backup keeper, you're not necessarily expecting them to play and you're kind of hoping they don't have to play. So there's less incentive to have a young guy that needs to develop there, because if they're not playing, they're not really developing as much. So yeah, I think potentially we could, depending on player sales and things, if we are looking for someone to really get significant minutes and we're having trouble finding someone already established at MLS level or in other leagues around the world. But I think keeper was the one position that made the most sense for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, honestly, it's hard to predict anything that the Union are going to do this summer in terms of buying players, because the last few summers just have not been great for the club in terms of reinforcing the team. So, I mean, we'll see what comes of it. But I think, guys. Oh yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
I just want to bring up something real quick while we're talking about like transfers and stuff like this. I thought this was really interesting. I don't know if you guys know Dan Ciano, I think is how you say his name. Familiar with him? Just a Union fan. But he posted on Twitter after the game on Wednesday. I don't know the validity of this. I haven't asked him about it. I should reach out to him about it. But he said that he spoke with Jay Sugarman after the game, and then he put in like parentheses, like he really did. Or seriously, he said he congratulated him on the Danish team acquisition, and then asked him directly what he was going to do for this team. And he said that his answer was, he said he needed a killer in possession and that he already told Tanner that. I thought that was really interesting that just like a fan ran into him and asked him point blank, like, what's the plan here? And needing a killer in possession, and I already told Tanner that. I thought that was a really interesting response, and I'm someone, based off of Jim's answers, I don't think that Union are going to make much of a splash in the summer window. Yeah. It seems like Jim kind of believes that the team that we have is the team that they're going to go the majority of the season with, if not the whole thing. But I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was an interesting little tidbit from someone that isn't really on the beat, but is very passionate about the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, because if they're looking for a killer in possession, then that would mean a change of style of play, because Union don't like to play with possession. So, I mean, Hey, I mean, I'd be all for it. We'll see if that was true, or if that was just kind of lip service to a fan asking a question after a game. Well, we'll see how that goes. But real quick, before we go and preview the Union's upcoming match against Montreal, we got to talk curses. We got to talk the curse of Union Yards. At first, I was kind of skeptical. I didn't really believe it. I was like, no, come on, it's not a real thing. And now it's been 5 matches without a win, and I'm right there on the hype train with everyone. And Jimmy, I know you wrote an article about this today, and it's kind of been blowing up. People have been really responding to it well. So I'll give you kind of the air to talk about it and just kind of fill some fans in if they don't know about the curse of Union Yards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you do know at this point, and you kind of just touched on it. But since the opening of Union Yards, the new 7,000-foot brew hall at Subaru Park, located right across the street from the Sons of Ben lot, Union have not won a game at home. They only lost 3 of their 59 previous home games prior to this stretch, and then have lost 4 straight at home for the first time in club history. So the vibes are off. I don't know. Like you, I didn't necessarily want to call it a curse at first.
Yeah.
Although that's what other people were starting to call it in the press box and just around the Sons of Benlot and on Twitter and stuff, I think kind of half jokingly.
Yeah.
But now the results are continuing to stay sour. And I don't know how much longer people you look at Union Yards in kind of a joking light in regards to this curse.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed a bunch of Union fans have brought up to remedy the situation. And there was quite a few different ideas that were floating around there. Some of which were spiritual cleanses, dropping salt and saging Union Yards, which I'm a fan of myself. Some people brought up the idea of doing like a meet the team there to kind of change the like general of how it is, very almost like make money, like bring people in to make money, and instead of doing that, allow the fans to come and kind of have a good time and have something given back to them. Another idea was in the style of Marco Ruiz leaving Dortmund, paying for a beer for all of the fans on his way out. Union will never do that, but what a nice way to give back to the fans and lift the curse. And then there was a whole bunch of other ideas that go from like hot boxing Union Yards to hooking up, all sorts of different things. So it's a really cool article. It's been a lot of fun to kind of talk about this. Something like I think people genuinely do believe that there is a little bit of a curse here going on. But it is nice to just talk about something that's a little bit less serious than just like wins and losses. And that's what makes this kind of stuff fun. It's like we can find little angles like this to talk about that aren't just like, how abysmal it is to not win at home in over 2 months. One thing I do want to say, I brought this up on Twitter. I didn't think I would ever write an article that involved both arson and the Philadelphia Union in one article. But
like this, cast it into the fire, destroy it. If you're a Tolkien nerd, you understand exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly it.
Yeah. And I think that's just like, that is Philadelphia sports fandom in a nutshell. Is like, people really are crazy for this team. I don't think anyone would actually commit arson for them. I hope not. But people really are crazy about their sports here. And that's why I love doing this it would not be fun to write about a team that doesn't have any fans, or like fans that are just like, oh, we come to the game to have a good family night out. It's like, that would be so boring. So having this type of interactions is a lot of fun. Thank you guys for letting me write about stupid stuff like this. And let's enjoy $5 Victory Dogfish Head beers tomorrow. That's all I want. That's all I've wanted since they announced Union Yards. So please give it to us.
I mean, I would love that. I would definitely love that. Edgar came up with another solution in the vein of what he said happened to Galaxy way back in '97. They were having a rough patch, so they brought in a Brujo witch doctor to come on the field and remove the curse. So, Eric, do you think we could just have El Brujo come out and do some cool like dance that he does, and then we're all good to go?
I don't know. I mean, he's been playing in a lot of these games, and it hasn't quite fixed it. So
true.
Maybe we need to have him do something at Union Yards instead. Maybe he needs to join. Jimmy, I like the idea that you had of burning the sage during the pregame show. So why not have El Brujo be a part of that?
Right.
It kind of makes sense. I feel, it's interesting because I feel like there have been, and you brought up several of these in the article, other potential reasons besides Union Yards that could have led to this, like Jim Curtin's suit wearing, for instance. And I was just thinking, I realized another one that I don't think I've seen actually many people bring up. That has to do with a resident who used to live under the bridge there. Because for so long, you have all these other teams coming in with like their armies of high-priced players, but we always had a Hulk.
Yeah.
And we haven't had that quite so much this season. So maybe we need the big green guy back.
That would be very helpful. I mean, just for the banter alone, I miss my interactions with Union Hulk.
Oh, me too.
Union Bruce Banner he's not the same. He's not the same person.
He's really not.
No.
If you're a Union fan that started paying attention to this team in the last 2 years, I'm sorry that you have absolutely no idea what
I just love in the last 5 minutes how we've brought up Tolkien and Marvel stuff. This is just like, it's making my little nerd heart happy. It's
Absolutely
a good time. And then if we can throw in, the raccoon, like it's a free for all. Like that would be amazing. Yeah. But like Jimmy was saying, hopefully we can enjoy some $5 Dogfish Head beers at Union Yards after what could hopefully be the first win in the Union Yards history here. Union take on CF Montreal tomorrow night at Subaru Park at 7:30. It's a big game for the Union, and I know it's kind of hard to think about a game at the beginning of June as sort of like a must win or a really important match. But we're kind of getting to that territory. We're almost halfway through the season, and the Union's current run of form is just it's not where it needs to be. And there were a lot of opportunities missed in the last month here where the Union had finished playing all of their Western Conference opponents. So from when was it? It was from the beginning of May on, they were only playing teams from the East. And since that time, there's been 1 win, 3 draws, and 2 losses. So it's definitely not been good enough. It fits into how the Union are on different, extremes of scoring a lot, not scoring a lot. And just how kind of bang average they are this year with their record. Literally, they have the same number of wins and losses, so it's tough. And then you throw in all the draws, and those don't help when you're losing just as many as you're winning. So to start previewing this match, I'll throw it over to you, Eric, first. What we kind of talked about some things of ways that the Union could maybe change things up coming into this match, but what's a kind of one specific way that you could see them kind of pushing to get this win that's kind of eluded them for this last month or so here?
I mean, like you kind of touched on it before, but playing more direct, taking advantage of a Montreal team that has not been great this season. Even though they are coming off a win, overall they have not been all that good, and they've been allowing goals. They in some ways they've been similar to how Union were earlier in the season in terms of scoring goals, but ultimately losing or drawing. So we need to finally take advantage of a team that's struggling and really push forward and put them on the back foot and take the lead and play with a lead for once instead of giving up the first goal. With Ua and Sullivan up top, having Sullivan maybe kind of a little deeper, or like starting on the same level and dropping a little deeper as Ua was making runs forward to kind of get the defense out of sorts, I think seems like at least a potential way to go, because then you're opening up both the short ball and the more direct ball. I hope we can finally take advantage of a weaker team.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that. Montreal has not been the best over the last few seasons ever since they let Wilfred Nancy go. So much so that they went out this last offseason and got Laurent Courtois from Columbus Crew 2 after he went with Nancy down to Columbus. So it's sort of like they're just trying to get the next coming of Nancy again, even though they already had him up in Montreal a few seasons ago. And Jimmy, I'll kind of throw this over to you because I know we were talking about it a little bit before the pod of how we don't really know much about this Montreal team because it seems like they've had a lot of turnover, not just in their coaching, but in their roster as well. Like, what do you think we can sort of expect from this Montreal team?
I think the thing to expect from this Montreal team is to not really expect production from one specific player. It's they don't really have a star. Matthew Chonier is probably like the guy you look at and say is maybe the most talented on their team. But even then, the guy's only got 2 goals and an assist. He's more of a jack of all trades than he is like a bona fide star or like playmaker. So if you look at it, Ibrahim leads the team with 4 goals. And you've got like a plethora of guys that have 3 and 2 goals, including Joseph Martinez, Bryce Duke, Matthias Kokorau. So there's like a handful of guys on here that can contribute, but nobody that's particularly lighting it up or kind of playing above all the rest. I think Ibrahim probably stands out. Ibrahim and Lassiter probably stand out because they do play up the field quite a bit more, or at least Ibrahim does. But yeah, again, there's not really one specific player that you look at and kind of have to put a target on, and maybe that's kind of plays to Montreal's advantage a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit hard to scout them and figure out what exactly it is you need to shut down. Just kind of looking at Montreal statistically, that, like we talked about, they've let in 33 goals this season, which is the second most in the league. And one statistic that really, really jumped out to me, just scrolling to try to find it here. Yes, of those 33 goals, Montreal has conceded 10 in the final 15 minutes of games. And 8 of those have come on the road. So this is a team that if you hang around, keep games close, you can find a late goal, hopefully to get 3 points and lift the curse of Union Yards when all is said and done.
I really hope so. I mean, it's been so long, and it's statistically the worst losing streak in Union history. I know they drew on Wednesday. It ended the losing streak, but it's very odd to see this type of Union team have this little success at home. And I know Jim Curtin has brought it up of how he said there's something kind of unsettling in the team right now, how they just don't seem to have the confidence to go out and do the things that they have done for years on end now, and being so successful at home. So hopefully something can kind of switch there. We got another good comment here. Someone wants to see a Dono walk-off winner. I mean, I'd hope for more of like a Donovan scoring the 3rd goal and another 3-0 like that. I'd go for that. I think that's the kind of performance that we would kind of be hoping for here. But before we kind of go to our On the Volley takes and end the pod, I think we should kind of go through our thoughts on the lineup and our predictions here for that. I think goalkeeper and backline are pretty solidified. We think, obviously we know Ali Semla is the starter right now. Left back, Kai Wagner. And then we have Jack Elliott, Jakob Glesnes, and Nate Harriel. Do you guys think that Jim kind of tinkers with that backline at all in this match? Like, do we see Damian Lowe again? Jimmy, I'll throw it over to you first.
If we were playing one game a week, I would say absolutely not. Liner 3rd game in a week. Yeah. I kind of think that there may be some rotation. I think you may see Olivier Mbizo for Nate Harriel. Okay. We know Kai Wagner's not coming out. Yeah. Maybe one of the center backs, but I don't know. I don't want Jim to touch it, but I think you have to consider it at least, the possibility of one of those guys not playing, or at least not starting tomorrow night. And if I had to pick anyone, I would say it's probably Nate.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting too, because I know at the beginning of the season, Jim Curtin was mentioning rotating the center backs because he didn't want to do again what he did to Jakob Glesnes last year, where he ran him into the ground and then he wasn't there for the playoffs. So I don't know. Eric, do you have any thoughts about the back line? Do you think Jim's going to tinker at all?
I think potentially we could see Damian Lowe come in, keeping in mind that this is the last game we're going to have him for a while.
Oh, yeah.
He did get called up for the Jamaican national team. So I think because of that, we may see him. I also agree with Jimmy that we could see Bizo come in for Harriel.
Yeah.
But I, again, also agree that it would be nice to see this lineup that's been doing so well continue.
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't be surprised in either direction.
Yeah, I think that's sort of where I'm at too. I feel like if Jim was going to make changes, it actually might be in this backline, but we'll see because of international duty, the week off coming up because of that. Yeah, we'll see where he likes to go with that. Midfield, Leon Flock seems to be the lockdown right now for the center midfield defensive position there. Jack McGlynn also seems like he's not going to come out. We saw when they tried to rest him, he had to come right back in and change the game when Brujo went out injured against New England. And that kind of leaves us with an interesting thought on the right side. Are we going to see Bedoya again? I know some of you guys were kind of talking about maybe the possibility of seeing Brujo pushed up into that right position. We haven't seen Bueno in a while. Like, what do you think we see in terms of that midfield three there? And I'll throw it over to Jimmy first this time again.
Man, I know this is probably going to seem like a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I don't necessarily think it's as important who plays on the right as it is as important as it is who plays where Quinn isn't, or sense. Like I don't really care if it's Bedoya or Bueno or whoever it is on the right. I think a couple of those players have trade-offs. Yeah. I want to see Quinn up top, and I know that's likely what's going to happen. But I would like to see someone. Marcus Sanderson would have been great for this game. Him being injured puts a real big damper in it. But I would like to see, if Quinn's not playing in his preferred position to start the game, I'd like to see him as an option off the bench. He seems to be one of the only guys that can get on the ball and break guys down one-on-one late in games. And he's not going to do that after running around and chasing the defense for 75 minutes to start the game. So I would be totally fine if any of Ali Bedoya, Jesus Bueno, even Jose Martinez plays on the right side of the diamond. I just would really like it to not be because Quinn Sullivan's playing up top. I want it to be because Quinn Sullivan's on the bench. And that's a weird thing to say, to be like, I want Quinn Sullivan to be on the bench. But I think what I'm trying to say is, if Quinn is not going to start on the right, try something different than him up top. Even if it's Quinn and Gazdag as dual 10s and going in like a Christmas tree formation. I think we got to try something different here.
Yeah, it's so true. And you did bring up a good point about Anderson. If he was there, we could really change formations a whole lot because of how versatile he is in the attack. And I feel like it's the one thing we've been missing, like you've been saying, Jimmy. We don't have someone who's that versatile attacking player that can play the different positions other than Quinn Sullivan. And I really like that idea of him as a super sub. And we'll see if Jim Curtin wants to kind of roll the dice that way. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Eric, for your midfield, do you think we're going to see any of these changes, or do you think it's going to kind of be on par with what Curtin has been doing?
I think it'll probably be on par. I definitely think McGlynn is locked in again, particularly with him missing some time with the team coming up. I do wonder how much we'll see Martinez and Bueno, because again, I think they both got called up.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think we might see more of them than maybe we have recently.
Yeah.
Just to, rest some of the legs that we're going to be relying on going forward. And obviously that's going to be a consideration for a lot of places over the field, because we've got a lot of international caliber players. Yeah. It's the downside to that. But I wouldn't expect anything wild and crazy. I think it'll be the Flock, McGlynn, and Bedoya or grouping that we all kind of expect.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Whenever we talk about lineups like this, when we're not doing like a live pod of when the lineup comes out, I try, like, in my head, I end up talking myself into like, oh, this change would be really good. This change would be really good. And I just had one like for up top, when Jimmy, how you said Quinn should get some rest and kind of come on as a super sub. Like, it screams to me that this would be the perfect game, especially against the Montreal team that kind of ships goals on the road. Be a perfect game to see what Ty Barabo could really do. I don't think it's going to happen, but we're kind of shifting our thoughts up to the attack. We know Gazdag and Ua is going to be in there, but who's that third person? Do either of you think we could actually see like Ty Barabo, Chris Donovan start from the beginning of a match, or do you think they're going to be relegated to the bench again?
No one asked Jim about Ty's performance after Wednesday, mainly because I don't think there really was anything to say. He wasn't really involved. He didn't really do anything wrong, but
that's been his whole Union career when he's on the field. Unfortunately, he just has never been able to get into a game.
Exactly. Yeah. And the one thing I will say though is I think Jim's been really transparent about, you earn your minutes here based off how you perform in practice, and seeing him get a couple more appearances lately, and this one being the longest I think he's ever had in a Union shirt. I think that is a positive sign, and I think that if there was any time ever to say that Ty Baribo might start the next game, it's probably right now after he just came off the bench for 20-25 minutes at whatever the other night. So I think that is a decent sign. That being said, he's another guy that's going out the door for he got called up for international duty as well. So it's it's not even like we look at this and say, well, maybe he's getting ready for him to play over international break, because that's not the case either. So no, I lean towards Chris Donovan starting next to Uwa tomorrow, just because I think Jim said in his press conference there's going to be a few changes. I can't think of very many other than what we talked about with maybe Olivier and Bizo. So just trying to go through like process of elimination here, that leaves either the striker or the right side of the diamond for me to be the one of the changes. So I don't know. I already said it. I'd like to see Quinn come on as a super sub if he's not in position to start. So that I think leaves Chris Donovan as the other striker. But man, I'd love to see what Ty Baribo could do with the start. I think this is a game where you got to use the guy. Like if you're not going to use him, let him go and get someone else you are gonna use. So I don't know. Fucking throw him on the fucking starting 11 for all. I think that's where I'm going with this.
Hey, I mean, I kind of talked myself into it a few minutes ago, which is why I brought it up. But Eric, how are you feeling about this? Do you think we could possibly see something like that?
I'm on the bandwagon now. I think I agree. I want to see him start. I think that would be fun. And like Jimmy said, it feels like the perfect opportunity to just give him a chance to prove that he can contribute for this team. Against a Montreal team that allows a lot of goals. If it's the perfect scenario. And if he can't score in this game, depending on how the team as a whole performs, obviously, then maybe that's a sign that we just need to cut our losses and go a different direction.
Yeah.
But if he can perform well and maybe put in a goal or even two, then that could be the kind of boost that a team like this needs.
Yeah.
So it feels like a good time to take that risk and see what happens.
Are we on Volley takes? Because I've got mine. It's pulling out of me.
Go for it. Go for it.
I'm calling Ty Baribo to break the Union Yards curse.
Let's go.
With the game winner, he joins everyone at Union Yards post game, and he's lifted on top of fans' shoulders. And he rides off into the sunset of international duty, where I don't know what happens after that. But Union Yard first lifted by Ty Baribo. You heard it here first. PSN exclusive take.
Yes, I love it. And mine's in the same vein of just the absolute craziness that will happen after Ty Baribo does score the winning goal to break the Union Yards curse. When Baribo is there with the fans and he's getting lifted up, we're going to see Union Hulk walk in holding a raccoon as a baby. And everyone's just going to be in bliss and how it's supposed to be there. We're supposed to enjoy beers after a win at Union Yards. So, we're going to sage and salt before the game. Baribo's going to score the game winner. We got Union Hulk walking in with his baby raccoon, and it's his own rocket raccoon. We're keeping it in the Marvel universe there. So there we go. That's my on the volley take as well. Union Hulk maybe makes an appearance afterwards. Love it.
Okay, I guess mine is going to have to be how it happens exactly. So, Glesnes, rocket of a shot. Goalkeeper barely gets his fingers on it. Doesn't really slow its momentum. It goes off over towards the bridge somewhere and hits Union Bruce banner, which
Yes.
turns him into the Hulk. His transformation into the Hulk distracts the Montreal keeper as we're taking the corner. Baribo puts it in the back of the net for the win. Then all the rest of the stuff that you said happens.
And the refs don't pay attention, and it's fine. Yeah, we're good. That's it.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the score.
it's getting distracted by Union Hulk transforming isn't a foul. I mean, what are
That's
they going
true.
to do? They can't call it. There's nothing to call.
I've seen MLF's refs give advantage when the ball goes out of bounds and then comes back in. So I can believe anything that happens in MLS, to be honest. So there we go.
True, yeah.
Well, everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of Doop on the Volley. It got a little unhinged at the end, but that's how it should be on a Friday evening here. So I hope y'all enjoy your weekend and tune into the Union match tomorrow night. Hopefully we can come back here next week and be celebrating a Union win, as well as going kind of doing a little bit more of a deep dive into the players going out on international duty here, and what they can possibly do with their national teams. Of course, always keep an eye on Philly Sports Network for our articles, previews, recaps, all the fun stuff, stuff about raccoons, stuff about Union Yard curses, all the good stuff over there. And if you listen to audio versions of this podcast, you can subscribe to any place you get them, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Google, whichever place. So feel free to subscribe to us there. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And let's hope that we're back here celebrating a Union win coming next week. See you, everybody.